Recorded Books and One Click Digital present Sidewinders, Bleeding Texas by William W. Johnstone with J.A. Johnstone. Narrated by R.C. Bray.
Chapter 1. Bo Creel knew he was in trouble. One of the worst dangers he had faced in many, many years of wandering from one end of the frontier to the other, getting into all kinds of scrapes from south of the Rio Grande to north of the Canadian border, now stood right in front of him, ready to wreak havoc in his life.
"Well, what do you think?"
Laura Lee Parker asked as she turned around slowly with her arms held out at her sides to let Bo get a good look at the stylish blue dress she wore. "I think it's, really nice," Bo said. "Pretty. No, make that beautiful." That description applied to Laura Lee just as much as it did to the dress. She was a lovely woman, slender in the right places and curved in the others, with a mass of curly blonde hair that tumbled around her shoulders and eyes as blue as a high mountain lake. A tiny beauty mark near her mouth just added to her allure. Any man would be proud to have Laura Lee showing off a new dress to him and asking his opinion. The problem was, Bo was old enough to be her father, and he couldn't quite bring himself to forget that, no matter how much he might want to at times.
"You think it'll be all right to wear to the social, don't you?" she asked.
"I think it'll be just fine," Bo assured her. "Every cowboy within 50 miles of Bear Creek will be there, and they're all going to want to dance with you."
"Well, that's just too bad," Laura Lee said, "because I'm only interested in dancing with one man."
The gleam in her eyes as she looked at him made it perfectly clear whom she was talking about. Bo cleared his throat and looked down at the floor. He needed to get out of here. It was bad enough he'd allowed Laura Lee to lure him up here to her bedroom on the second floor of the Southern Belle Saloon. The blatant invitation in her gaze just made it worse. Bo turned his black hat over in his hands and said, "You wouldn't want to, disappoint all those cowpokes. Some of them will have ridden all that way just to dance with you."
"Maybe, but I don't care. There are other ladies in Bear Creek who'll be glad to dance with them."
But none as pretty as Laura Lee, Bo thought. Not even close. "I reckon I'd better head on back downstairs," he said. "Scratch is supposed to meet me as soon as he finishes picking up those supplies."
"Scratch isn't going anywhere," Laura Lee said as she came closer to Bo, close enough to lay the fingertips of one elegant hand on his coat sleeve. Bo wondered if women knew just how much of an effect it had when they touched a fella's arm like that. He figured they did. Laura Lee went on, "If you're not downstairs when he gets here, he'll wait for you. You know as well as I do that passing some time in a saloon isn't going to be a hardship for Scratch." That was true enough, Bo had to admit. His long-time trail partner Scratch Morton was a man who enjoyed a drink and the convivial companionship that came with it. "So why don't you stop worrying?" Laura Lee continued as she moved her hand up his arm to his shoulder. She was close enough now that he could smell the lilac water she wore, and mixed with her own clean, natural scent, it made for a heady brew. An insistent voice in the back of his head clamored for him to ignore the difference in their ages and go ahead and kiss her. That was what she wanted, after all. Hell, he wanted it too, he thought. He'd always been the more conservative, sober-sided member of the duo as he and Scratch roamed the West, a fact reflected in his parson-like garb. But that didn't mean he lacked a man's natural urges. It would be easy enough to slide a hand under that mass of blonde curls, rest it on the back of Laura Lee's neck, and lean down to taste those full, rosy lips. "You son of a bitch! Go for your gun or I'll drill you where you stand!" At the sound of the angry voice coming through the partially open door from downstairs, Laura Lee's hand jerked away from Bo's shoulder. He stood up straighter and muttered, "Uh-oh, Scratch must be here." As a matter of fact, for once, the trouble had nothing to do with Scratch Morton. He was still inside the general store, where he had parked the wagon he'd driven in from the Star Sea, the ranch owned by Bo's father, John Creel. Scratch had volunteered to pick up the supplies on the list written by Ida Bell Fisher, John Creel's cook and housekeeper.
Bo had decided to ride along.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?